is a normal good or inferior good? Normal or inferior? An easy way to judge this is from a lower price to a higher price. And for Hickson, just remember that Hickson is a compensated demand curve, right? So Hickson just captured what? Hickson captures the pure substitution effect. The pure substitution effect. However, the Marshallian captures the total effect, which means the price effect. Pure substitution plus income effect. So now, after the price increases, for the pure substitution effect, okay, our consumption cuts a bit from here to here. And actually, the price increase means our real income is higher or lower with a price increase? Higher or lower, our real income? The price increases, our real income will be lower, right? So the income effect, this part is the income effect. We decrease or we trim down, we just cut our consumption. With the income decrease, a decrease in income, we also consume less, which means this is a normal good, right? Okay? It's a normal good. Or you may think this with the higher price to a lower price. So the pure substitution effect would be from here to here. With the price decrease, we will consume more, right? It's a pure substitution effect. And the income effect makes us consume even more. We consume even more for the income effect. But now, this time, for the price decrease, our real income will be higher. And with the higher real income, we increase our consumption level, which means the good would be normal or inferior. Normal, right? Do you understand what I'm talking about? All right. From a lower price to a higher price, your real income would be cut or would be increased. Would be cut, right? Would be lower. So from here to here, our real income is lower. So the pure substitution effect and the income effect. So with the lower income, we cut our consumption even more, right? So it's a normal good. With a lower income, we consume less. But from a high price to a low price, the pure substitution effect, the income effect, we consume even more because our real income increases, right? Again, it's a normal good. So either way, from a low price to a high price or from a high to a low price, either way, we may verify this will be a normal good. So do you get the point? All right, now, this part is the change in consumer surplus, okay? This will be the change in consumer surplus. because we measure the consumer surplus with the usual Marshallian demand curve, right? Or the conventional demand curve. We are used to the concept, Marshallian demand curve. So with the Marshallian demand curve, this part would be the change in consumer surplus. What about this? What about this part? Is CV or EV? It depends on the price is increased or decreased. Now suppose there's nothing saying that. Okay, so you may, let me see. Would you please just put something here on the find a space to say the price increases from 0.5 to 1. Now given the price goes up, given an increase of price, if we want to keep the consumer as good as he were before. So according to this, do you think the consumer feel better or worse off? According to the Hickson, do you think the consumer will feel better or worse? Or the same? Do you remember, along the Marshallian demand curve, a consumer will feel better off if the price goes down, right? The utility will change. But along a Hickson demand curve, the utility will remain the same, right? Because we just follow the same indifference curve. So on this point, the consumer still feel the same, as happy as he were, right? So now the price goes up, but he still feel as good as he were. So do you think this is about compensating variation or equivalent variation? Compensating, right? Because we make him feel as good as he were. Okay, so this area, A plus B plus C would be compensating variation. And A, if I want to force Lao Wang to an environment he doesn't like, then I would say, okay, I will cut your salary, or I will take away some money from you so that you will feel the same as you were there, but you stay. But I will make you feel worse as you were there, okay? So along this Hickson, every point on the Hickson demand curve is on the same indifference curve as this point, right? And this point is a worse one, okay? Because it's just like Lao Wang has already go there. He feels worse, but now, okay, we allow him to stay, but we need to take away some money from him so that he will stay as worse off as he were there. Okay, so along this indifference curve, along this Hickson demand curve, he will feel as he were there. and we take away these parts, area A. We take away this amount of money so that he will feel, he stay in the original environment, but he will feel as he were there. So A is actually the EV. But don't forget, this is what? Is of the case of price increase. If the price decreases, then this curve or this diagram, we may reshape this diagram. Marshallian, H1, H2 Hickson. So now the case P0, or P1 prime. So the price drops from P1 to P1 prime. And this would be the change in consumer surplus. So Lao Wang feel better and he got more consumer surplus, A plus B. However, what do you think at this time? A, along this Hickson demand curve, do you think A is CV or EV? A corresponds to CV or EV? CV or EV. Think about this. Now he moved there, but he still feels as good as he were here. Alright? So the migration happened. The migration occurs. However, he feels as good as he were here. So it's CV. Alright? The change has really happened. The change really happened. But now, A plus B plus C would be EV. The reason is that actually he stayed here. But we make him as he were there. So if he stayed, originally he will be here. If he migrates to a new place, he will be here. And this would be better, right? Because on the Marshallian demand curve, a low price corresponds to a better environment, right? So he would go there. He is willing to go there. And if we make him as he were here, so A would be compensating. And if we make him stay, however, we also offer him something, so that he will feel as he were there. So he stay here, but he feels he were there. Then ABC would be EV. So you will see these two diagrams are exactly opposite, because this, in this case, is originally with a lower price, but after that, the price increases. But in this case, the original price is higher, and after something happened, the price drops. All right. So, conclusion. Either we use CV or EV to capture the idea of what? We want to capture the idea of the change in welfare, the welfare change. Okay? So, either CV or EV. And here we just want to let you know that CV sometimes is higher than the change in consumer surplus. But CV sometimes, in this case, EV would be higher than the change in consumer surplus would be higher than CV. So sometimes it depends. It depends on the case. But for small changes in price, these three measures are very similar to most goods. These three would be very similar. Okay? So if the price change is just a little bit, A is almost the same as A plus, or B and C would be extremely small. If the price change is not very big, it's just a small change, then B and C would just approach zero. Okay? Which means CV, EV, delta CS, these three terms would be almost the same. Once again, why we need to talk about compensating variation and equivalent variation is because if we just follow the conventional way that we use the change in consumer surplus, then there will be a problem, because along a Marshallian demand curve, the utility or the happiness changes along the curve. So we propose something about Hickson demand curve, and we propose something to compensate the consumer if he feel harmed or helped. We compensate him with a positive amount of money if he feel harmed, but we compensate him a negative amount, just like we take away amount of money from him, so that he will feel, if he feel helped, then we take away something, make him feel as good as before. Okay? So it's the idea about compensating, and also we introduce something about equivalent variation. It's another way to think about this. All right, any question here? Any question? It depends. The idea or the concept is very close to each other, but the true content or the precise content is actually a little bit different. So it's just because, yeah, you may say that, but it's easier to think about this is because if the migration or the change is real, the change happens really, or really happens or not. Okay, so compensate, which means, okay, the migration or the change really happens. So I have to compensate you to accept the new one. But EV is, okay, you may stay here, but I give you some compensation, can say that. If you just stay here, why would I say I compensate you something? You just stay. But you stay to prevent from going there, or to, if the new environment is bad. So if you don't want to go there, and I want to force you to go there, so all right, you stay, but I will take away money from you. Or, okay, it's another way of compensation. I think we may say that. But you need to make it clear that the difference is if you go there or you stay. Okay, the idea, yes, we may say equivalence is something like negative compensation, or actually is a form of compensation. It's just yeah. So you need to understand the story. So, and also it depends on how you define compensation. As how you define compensation. If you think equivalence variation is a form of compensation, yes, I think you may say so. But you need to think through perfectly, or just understand perfectly how the story goes. Okay? Yes, it is a kind of compensation, and it goes maybe in opposite way as CV goes. Any other questions? All right, it's 9:52, 10:05, okay? 10:05.